What's going on, everyone? Noche UFC's right around the corner, and I want to break down one of my most anticipated fights on the card, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes. This is a clash of two exciting featherweight contenders who both have great grappling ability and can stand and bang when they need to. Brian Ortega is coming off of a win against Yair Rodriguez in a fight that I didn't think he was going to be able to win because he took a lot of time away from the sport, and I thought Yair was going to be a little bit sharper. But once it got to the ground, Ortega took over, and like a lot of his opponents, once you're on the ground with Brian Ortega, there's not a good chance that you're going to end up winning, unless your name's Alexander Volkanovski. Diego Lopes' last fight was against Dan Ige, but it was supposed to be against Brian Ortega. This fight was booked before for International Fight Week, but Ortega had some medical problems, couldn't make the weight, couldn't even step in for the fight. Here comes Dan Ige off the couch on 3 hours notice. He was literally watching the card, made the trip down to the stadium, and fought Diego Lopes that night. Insane, incredible, and a lot of people gave Diego a little bit of shit in that fight, saying he didn't look that good, Dan Ige exposed him, this and that, but think about it. He's training for a completely different profile of fighter for months, and then 3 hours before he's actually supposed to step in there, his opponent changes. So obviously there was going to be issues with that, and you weren't going to see the cleanest performance from Diego. And for a guy on 3 hours notice, Dan Ige fought pretty damn well. So I don't want to take too much away from that fight, and I don't want to hold that over Diego's head, especially when I'm looking at this one. So we see the clear strengths that both guys have. Brian Ortega's jiu-jitsu is on another level. It's up there with the best in the UFC, but so's is Diego Lopes. I mean, if a lot of you guys probably don't know this, but before Diego Lopes made the jump to MMA and in the UFC, he was actually Alexa Grasso's jiu-jitsu coach. So the guy can definitely roll, I'll tell you that for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see how it matches up against Ortega's jiu-jitsu. I would love to see these guys just grapple. I think it would be super exciting, but I highly doubt that's what's going to happen. I think Diego Lopes is going to want to keep this one on the feet, though, because I think he has the advantage. He's a pressure fighter, loves being in front of his opponent's face, and Brian Ortega doesn't love that too much. I mean, we saw against Max Holloway when Max put on pressure, Ortega didn't love it. And against Yair wasn't in his face and wasn't applying pressure, so Brian found a lot more success. But Diego Lopes, when that bell rings, he is in your face and it does not stop. He's always on the front foot, always throwing powerful punches, and I think he could really throw off Ortega early in this fight, and that could lead to his victory. But Diego Lopes, he's still a young MMA fighter, and he makes some mistakes sometimes. He overcommits, overthrows, and maybe Ortega can take advantage of that, hop on his back, and lock in a rear naked choke. I don't really see that happening, but I mean, it's definitely a possibility. And honestly, the only way I really do see Ortega winning this fight is if he's able to capitalize on a Diego Lopes mistake. I think Lopes at this point is just clear of him in almost every aspect of the game. Besides the jiu-jitsu, I'd probably still favor Ortega, but honestly, I don't know. Like, Diego may have even better jiu-jitsu than Ortega. We just haven't seen it to its full extent yet. So he may be better there too. And it's unfortunate to say for Brian, because I think Ortega is a great contender and could definitely contend for a title, but when you're running into a guy like Diego Lopes, who is just on the streak of his life, he's just picking up win after win, finish after finish, rising through the rankings, and he has power in both of his hands. He's got the jiu-jitsu, and he's a complete package. It's not a matchup you want to be taking at this point, and I think Lopes is just a little bit better in all areas. I think Diego's pressure is just going to be way too much for Brian, though, honestly. I think Diego's going to get in his face. He's going to have him up against the fence. He's going to do some damage, and ultimately, it may lead to a TKO finish. I wouldn't even be surprised if this one doesn't hit the ground at all, just because Diego's able to keep it on the feet, but who knows? Maybe Brian Ortega is different now. I mean, he looked different against Yair Rodriguez, and I don't want to completely count him out of this matchup, but the way I look at it is I see Diego, I see a hungry, rising contender who's not letting anybody stand in his way, and he's going to get to that title one way or another. If he picks up a win here against Brian Ortega, he may even be next in line for the title shot if he's able to finish him. So I'm going to be taking Diego Lopes in this fight. I'm going to be taking him to win via KO, TKO more so, via punches, and that's that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Ortega goes in there and wins this one, to be honest, but honestly, I really don't see it. I think Diego's just a step above at this point in his career, and I think he'll be the one to be victorious. But I could be completely wrong about that. And let me know down below in the comments if you agree with me. Do you think Lopez is going to win? You think Ortega has a little bit more? Let me know down below. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you all for watching this one, and stay tuned for more UFC Noche videos coming out throughout the week. We're going to be talking about a lot of fights on this card and this event in general, so be on the lookout for those. Thank you all for watching once again, and I'll see you all in the next one.